I'm waiting for everywhere to populate so we can start. I'm officially still live on the radio.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much for that call.
Thank you.
We're about to round off. Um,
Absolutely.
Ada, it's been wonderful hanging out with you. You are amazing. The level of professionalism that you show is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. One of my best
Thank you,
gifts
Daddy
this
Freeze.
year was hosting a show with you.
Oh, okay.
All right, so
At your rush.
let me move on to other things. Guys, don't forget to join us every single weekday. Oh, sorry, except Friday, Monday through Thursday,
Mm,
from
yeah.
10 till midnight on 99.3 Nigeria Info. It is called Live and Dangerous with Ada Blessing and I. All right?
With Daddy Freeze and Ada.
Bye, Ada.
Okay, Daddy Freeze. But hey, before I go, I understand that Nigerians, we all want accountability for those officers who have murdered and the ones that are presently brutalizing Nigerians. And also, I feel that disbanding the unit without taking sanctions, or disbanding and rebranding it without taking sanctions,
Of course, all those
is
sanctions will be taken into consideration as
I just
and
hope
when
so.
due.
Yeah, they should do that because if you just transfer them to another unit, I feel that they can just, replicate the same atrocities they are or they were doing. Let's just hope that they are truthfully
Yeah.
rebranding them. We just hope to see change. And if you're out there protesting, please do it peacefully. We just
Remember
hope
to
that
keep it
someday it
peaceful.
stops. Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
Ada.
Thank you so
Take
much.
care of yourself.
Yeah. All right. Good night.
Good night. And that brings us to our live here. I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. Um, if there's anything you know about me, I speak the truth without fear. My stance against many pastors who have refused to speak up and have continued to remain silent has been misconstrued and politicized by some people. And I'm here to tell you that I'm glad I spoke up because it was not until after I spoke that the church really started responding. But nonetheless, I appreciate anyone who has stayed true to our cause, especially the people who are not trying to turn this into some political clout chasing. Very, very big shout out to Apostle Suleiman, Pastor Sam Adeyemi, who were among the first people to speak, and indeed they spoke up. Also, big shout out to Bishop T.D. Jakes. I'm not a fan of Bishop T.D. Jakes' doctrines. I see him more as a motivational speaker than a preacher. When I listen to a preacher, I want to hear scriptures. I want to see that spirit and that scripture and that truth instead of just saying things that would make people feel happy because that's what they want to hear. So I'm not a big fan of his theology, but hey, we can agree and disagree doctrinally, but still agree in principle, still agree with regards to our character, with regards to our stance for humanity. So I'm definitely appreciative of what Bishop T.D. Jakes did and the way he came and spoke up. A lot of people are trying to say, "Oh, I'm rubbishing the good work of the church." Nobody spoke except for few people. With the amount of we have 5 churches on every street, should we have just 5 pastors speaking? And trust me, I've appreciated Apostle Suleiman one on one and publicly. I have appreciated Pastor Sam Adeyemi one on one. I sent him a DM. I said to him, let me read it out to you. And I'm glad that he took the time out of his very busy schedule to respond. I said to him, sorry, I'm waiting for the DM to load. I said, thank you for standing up for Nigeria. Good evening, Pastor Sam. I appreciate you. I sent this message to him via DM, and he responded. So anybody trying to say that the freeze is rubbishing the work of God or faith, please, it's political. The real truth is we need more Samadeyamis. We can't have 5 churches on every street and have only 5 people speaking globally. And if there's anything I appreciate, I have spoken this year, I have seen somebody saying I should go and shave my beard. The scriptures in Leviticus chapter 19, 27 and 28 say we should not touch our beard. So according to the old law, where tithing is from, it's actually a sin to touch your beard. But you know no book. So who I won't vex with. Anyway, back to what I was saying. I've noticed consistently from the beginning of this year that Pastor Adeboye has displayed wisdom, and I've said it over and over again. I'm very proud, and if there's anything I said about Pastor Adeboye in the past that might have been construed as rude, please, Pastor Adeboye, you are an elder. Forgive us. We want the benefit of the church. We want our future to be bright. We don't want to be derailed physically, emotionally, and spiritually. From the beginning of this year, Pastor Adeboye has acted with so much wisdom. COVID, lockdown, all that period, I was so proud of him. And up until now, and I did have a bet with one of my friends. I said, Pastor Adeboye, we were the first to talk about this NSAS among the big geos. He's going to be the first. I think, of course, that's after Pastor Sam Adeyemi and Apostle Suleiman. But Pastor Adefarasin beat him to it. So Pastor Adefarasin spoke this morning. And then a few minutes ago, it was on Pastor Adeboye's Twitter handle. Let me just get that for you. Let me give you the exact tweet as it was from his Twitter handle. Yeah. He said, our daughters will not be able to prophesy and young men will not see visions if we don't keep them alive. I support the youth in this peaceful protest as they speak up to end police brutality, end SARS, and end SWAT. Awesome message from Pastor Adeboye. Awesome message. This is what Nigerian youths need to hear. They need to know that their leaders, especially leaders in religion, have their back. We don't need Pastor Adeboye to join the protest. This is all. Because with this, redeemers will feel urged or will feel justified if they join the protest peacefully. Remember, he's very wise. He chose the word peacefully. He said, I support the youth in this peaceful protest. We must ensure, under no circumstance, should we allow this protest to be hijacked. This protest must remain peaceful and must be devoid of all forms of violence. Earlier on in the morning, Pastor Adefarasin's write-up was sent to me, and I must appreciate him for also standing up. Let me go to his page. He said, it's a long read, but let me just read the summarized version. He said, beginning with the clamor to end SARS, the subsequent demand for justice erupting from our young people in response to years of profiling, bullying, extortion, and sheer brutality by a rogue element of our law enforcement is an unassailable cry signaling the need for sweeping reforms in policing in Nigeria. It must not be ignored, nor quelled or dismissed. Our hearts go out with condolence to all the bereaved and grieved who have suffered losses amidst the incursion of the unscrupulous dissidents into our justice system. While the cause of the protest is disheartening, the resounding call of our young people for equitable rule of law is one that is echoed globally and is welcome here at home because it shows that Nigerian youth have now found their unified voice and are using it to seek positive change in our polity. Beautifully said, and I appreciate this. Now, there's one thing I want to appeal to Pastor Adeboye on, being an elder. And it is something Pastor Paul Adefarasin raised. He said, in what I just read earlier, he said, beginning with the clamor to end SARS, the subsequent demand for justice erupting from our young people in response to years of profiling, bullying, extortion, and sheer brutality. There's a word he used, profiling. Earlier on today, there was a post on Twitter from some guy who says hashtag SARS must end. I was talking to my mom about the silence of religious leaders, and she said they cannot speak on this because they're also responsible for the social profiling that is part of the problem. Imagine churches where entire doctrines are centered on appearance. So here is where I would like to appeal to Pastor Adeboye, especially being an elder, and because if it starts at the top, it will trickle down to other younger ministers and other ministers with smaller congregations. Profiling. I said something in my response to that tweet. I said the role of social profiling via religion, where anti-tattoo, anti-beard gang, anti-funky hairstyles, and other unscriptural man-made doctrines have funded prejudice and stereotyping, which cannot be ignored as a fundamental part of the problem. You see, many churches lean heavily on appearance, and the SARS are also working with appearance. There are many churches who will not wed you today if you have dreadlocks, forgetting that Samson had dreadlocks. He wore braids. Do you want me to read it to you in the scriptures? Hold on. Judges chapter 16. I'm reading from verse 13. Then Delilah said, "You've been making fun of me and telling me lies. Now tell me how you can be tied up securely." Samson replied, "If you were to weave the 7 braids of my hair into the fabric of your loom and tighten it with the loom, I will become as weak as anyone else." If you were to weave the 7 braids of my hair, Samson wore braids or dreadlocks. So there's nothing wrong. I don't know how we came to the point where it became wrong for men to wear dreadlocks. It is our own. We need to all be very careful of Mark chapter 7 verse 7 that says we take man-made ideas as commands from God. Now, if you read, thank God that guy drew my attention to it when he said I'm not shaven. Leviticus 19, 27 and 28. Please, let's read this together. 19, 27 and 28. I'm reading from the New Living Translation. Do not trim off the hair on your temples. This is my temple. This is the hair on my temple here. Do not trim off the hair on your temples or trim your beards. It's actually a command from God. even though this is the Old Testament and this doesn't apply. And then he goes on to say in verse 28, do not cut your bodies for the dead, and do not mark your skin with tattoos. I am the Lord. So there are two commands from God. Do not trim your beard and do not tattoo yourself. How we started trimming beards but started frowning against tattoos is something I worry about. Of course, you cannot draw Satan on your body as tattoo and expect. But there's so many. I've seen people with crosses. I've seen people with psalms. I've seen people with all sorts of stuff that are motivational as body art. I personally do not have the right body for a tattoo. My skin reacts to sunlight and so many other things. So I'm sure a tattoo will not look so good on me. But it doesn't make tattoos wrong. I'm blocking the people here who have decided to loan out their brains this weekend. So here's the thing, and this particular message is more for Pastor Adeboye. Please adjust the doctrines that center on profiling, center on that create prejudice and stereotyping. When you look at somebody with a tattoo as irresponsible, you tend to communicate that to law enforcement. And many of these policemen are not well educated. They don't have the depth that you have. They just run with anything you give them on the surface. So when you see somebody being harassed for wearing braids, it makes me feel like if Samson lived in today's world, SARS would have picked him up for having braids. What about Joseph, who was gifted a coat of many colors? If Joseph wore his coat of many colors and was in a car and SARS stopped them, it is very likely that Joseph will be detained. Why? Because dressing, which is a form of our appearance, has been stereotyped into a certain manner. And let me tell you what I've learned over the years. Having tattoos does not make a person worse or better. Look at that Danish woman that picked up that little child that was starving to death because it was thrown out after being accused of witchery. Look at what she did in his life. Someone said Samson's dreadlocks were natural. Was Joseph's coat of many colors natural? I want to ask who, defender of the universe, was Joseph's coat of many colors natural? Was he born with it? So you've got to wake up from this. And some people don't realize that for me to block them is the easiest thing in the world. And I will continue to block you. I don't need you on my life. You don't add any value to it. So here's a very important part. How can our elders, not just our pastors, our parents too? Your daughter brings home a guy with dreadlocks, automatically you say he's irresponsible. Or with tattoos, you say he's irresponsible. We need to sit down and reevaluate, especially when the world is becoming a global village. So we need to reevaluate not just our ideologies, also our predilections. So it's a very, very wonderful thing to have some of our pastors or more of our pastors speak up in support of NSAS. And I would definitely give them kudos for it. And those who haven't spoken, we're still waiting for your voices. Let it not be that we only hear you when you are quarreling against lockdown. Let it not be that we only hear you when you are quarreling against government's COVID measures. Let it not be that we're only hearing you when it comes to Kama. There's NSAS. Let us hear you the way we heard you on all those other things. This is to those pastors who have not yet lent their voices. Please, those who have lent their voices, let us encourage them. We will never, I've come to the realization that we will never agree doctrinally. Even two Pentecostal churches cannot agree 100% doctrinally, let alone a church like the Free Nation with the Pentecostal church. So what we do is we preach our belief systems. I make sure everything I preach to you is backed deeply inside Scripture, as originally intended in original languages. I go as far back as the Vestus Latina and the Septuagint to get information and Scripture, because we're very clear. John chapter 4 tells us that God is looking for those who worship him in spirit and in truth. You cannot have the spirit if you don't have the truth. However, we also appreciate anybody else, even if we differ doctrinally. The closest people to me doctrinally, we are still not 100% in alliance. They will agree here, but disagree here. Just the way I also disagree with many of the things they say. But that doesn't mean that we now start fighting all the time and creating discord and all that. No, we are not going anywhere if all we do is quarrel. And when we do well, we must appreciate each other. If I had Pastor Adeboye's direct number, I would have sent him a text message appreciating him for standing up for us. I personally would have done. Unfortunately, I don't have his number, and I'm sure he won't recognize my text message if it came in. So let me say it publicly, just in case somebody plays the video to him. Daddy, ekushe adukbe eshe. I think I said that well. So thank you so much, everyone who is here with us. There's a lot we need to work on as a people, as a nation. There's so much we need to work on, and we need to come together. Whether you like it or not, even if we have doctrinal differences, we don't need. And also our imams, I never hear now. The pastors where they call, see, they never talk. They don't begin to talk. Imam, where una day? I won't begin to hear una too. Lend your voices. Give us moral support. Of course, I don't want you to support violence. So me, I will never, ever, ever support violence in any way or form. However, and we don't need the elderly pastors to come and join the protest. Of course, there's nothing if they want to, as long as they are masked up and they protect themselves, because they are vulnerable. Anybody above 60 is vulnerable in this COVID period. COVID has not gone away. As I'm speaking to you today, Macron, how do I put it? Sorry, I'm tired. This is my 4th live video today. Macron initiated a curfew in 6 French cities, including Paris. And the curfew is from 9 p.m. till 6 a.m. Why? Because COVID numbers are beginning to soar and dry season is coming. So we need to be very careful. We've been lucky all this far, or should I say we've been blessed. Let us not play with it. I don't need to see anybody above 40 safe protesting. If the youths want to be the ones on the street, no problem. But if you're older, be careful. Watch yourself. COVID has not gone anywhere. COVID is still as dangerous as it was at the beginning of the year. Yes, I know you are all urging to return to normalcy, but the time is not yet. All of you saying no COVID in Nigeria, I pray to God that it doesn't get to you. I pray to God. And I'm also not happy with the people protesting because they're not observing social distancing and they're not wearing masks. Make we tell ourselves the truth. I'm not happy that you guys are not wearing. How much is mask? Let's even imagine you can't social distance. How much is mask? How much is face shield? We can hear your voice from inside a mask. Please think of your elders. Think of those who are vulnerable. So I think that's as far as we can go. Please, I will not take anybody saying COVID is a scam. That's very ignorant of you to say. COVID is not a scam. We have people working in COVID wards, even members of the Free Nation who work in COVID wards across the world. Please, you guys need to be very careful. Somebody saying, have you seen any COVID patient in person? Did you see any disciple of Christ in person? Did you see Paul or Peter in person? That's a very ignorant thing to say. That's the kind of thing you say, and you just bring disgrace to your whole family. How can you say something so ignorant? Did you see Christ in person? Please, let us learn to be responsible. Please, let us be extra careful. I continue to appreciate all the good work. One of my phones is dying, so I need to see if I can, because I want to stay on the live a bit longer. So let me just plug this in here. Sorry for YouTube. I'm gonna have to hold YouTube in my hand because of the network. I'm sorry, the phone is dying, so I had to put it to charge. Okay. Anything else so I can close the feed? I appreciate you guys. Someone said, "How do I cope with the people who come to my life to display their ignorance?" I don't know. It's stressful. It's stressful. It's stressful, especially when they are so, how do I put it? When they are so secure in their ignorance, they brandish it with such pride. It really stresses me, and you guys need to be very careful. Coronavirus is not malaria. Oh. It is not malaria. Oh. So thank you so much once again. Plenty of appreciation to all the pastors who have spoken. The ones I have heard, Pastor Sam, Pastor Adeboye, Pastor Adefarasin, Apostle Suleiman, and every other person who has spoken up. We appreciate you. We thank you. Thank you for caring about us. Now we be the congregation, even though some of us also lead our own small congregations, but we still thank you. Thank you very much. Now, another thing we need to talk about is, as long as the police continue being underpaid, what do you expect? Many of us are shouting NSAS, NSAS. And Oga at the top in police. Those ones, those corrupt ones that demand for them to be settled by these people on the street. Those ones that give SARS target. Now, they suppose end, no be SARS. Because as long as still there, if they change them from SARS to SWAT, or they change them to WAT or to HOT, as long as there, once they enter office, go just call their side, hey, here say target today, 2 million. Oh yeah, go. They look for dreadlock. Go they look for yellow hair, golden hair, dye hair. So as long as those elements that are unscrupulous are still there in power, we're just wasting our time. It's like we are sending a gun to prison. Meanwhile, now person pull the trigger. Now that hand we pull the trigger, now me they find. So all those ogas in power that are using their children in the force to carry out their wickedness, please, it must end, and it must end now. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I look forward to having sessions with you tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to go back to our regular preaching. But in the meantime, for all of those people out there, stay safe, protect yourself. Protect yourselves, wear face mask, face shield, do social distancing, carry sanitizer, whatever it is that you can do to also or to curb the spread of the disease. Because it's one thing for us to achieve what we are protesting for and then carry sickness. It no makes sense. I love you guys. I love you from the depth and the bottom of my heart. I also love all pastors, even the ones who are annoying us. I still love them. We need, you see, the words of Christ, or the message of Christ is love. Without love, we achieve nothing. So I love you all. Let's take care of ourselves and remember to do what is right. God bless you.